Hey, everybody. It is Jonah Lupton, your host of the Startup Sense podcast. Thanks for joining us today. We got a great episode. I have a good friend of mine, Eric Boggs. He is the founder of a company called RevBoss. They are based in Durham, North Carolina. They've raised about $1.1 million in funding from some angels and VCs. And we're going to get into all that in a couple seconds. Eric, how are you today?
Doing very well, Jonah. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for joining us. This is my last interview of 2016. So,
All right. Well, let's end on a high note then.
Absolutely. Before we talk about the company and what you guys are up to, just tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So I grew up in North Carolina. Went to UNC Chapel Hill for undergrad and for business school. I've worked in software tech my entire career. First job out of college was at Bronto, an email marketing software company here in Durham. Worked there for a number of years. The company went on to get acquired by NetSuite, which was then acquired by Oracle. After Bronto, I started a company called Argyle Social that made a good run. We raised $1.6 million and then eventually left a smoking crater in the ground, which we could talk about that a little bit if you want.
Yeah,
and,
what did that,
then
not to interrupt too much, but what did that company do?
It was a social media marketing software company.
Okay.
So my whole career has been in sales and marketing software. Oddly, now that I say it out loud. And most recently, I started this company called RevBoss, which has gone through an interesting cycle. Initially, it was just me as a consultant, then put together a small team to do lead gen services. And then we raised some capital about a year ago to transform the services company into a SaaS company. And that's where we are today.
To talk about that life cycle then. So what were you doing as a consultant in the beginning?
Yeah, that kind of stems out of the story with Argyle, the company that kind of didn't work out. Was sort of took some time off and was looking for my next opportunity after that situation, and I just spun up a handful of consulting gigs with friends and clients, and just got really, really busy really, really quickly, and found myself solving a sort of a consistent set of problems around sales process, sales pipeline development, and eventually just said, well, you know what, I'm just going to focus on that because being a one-man show consultant can be very lucrative, but it's not terribly rewarding, particularly for me. I like building people, and building teams and building products, and so decided to focus purely on lead gen to sort of more narrowly define the consulting services that I offered, and that let me hire a team and kind of grow the business a little bit. And we started building some tools, some software tools to help enable that process for our team, and those tools eventually started to shape up and look more and more like a product. And that kind of got us to where we are now, where we've got this SaaS offering that we still use internally to deliver services for our customers, but more and more our focus is on selling SaaS subscriptions to sales teams and marketing teams to help organizations grow their sales pipeline and get more customers.
So for anyone listening to this podcast that isn't familiar with the term lead generation, do you want to just talk about that for a second?
Yeah, well, it means a lot of things to a lot of different people. For us, it typically means the B2B context where a sales team wants to have more conversations with their target prospects. And in the early days of RevBoss, we would work with a customer that would say, I want to sell to VPs of marketing at the top 3,000 internet retailer websites. And we would run campaigns to generate sales conversations for our customer with those target prospects. And there are sort of other ways to kind of broadly define it in this scope of internet marketing. But for us, lead gen means sort of the B2B sales process, where a prospect gets on the phone with a sales rep to have them see a product demo or go through an assessment call or go through some sort of considered sales cycle.
Gotcha. What are some of the companies that you guys work with right now? Are you focused on any particular industry, or are you pretty agnostic across the board?
Yeah, I mean, we're largely agnostic in terms of who we can help. There's some criteria that we like that we kind of scan for. The companies that have annual Contract value north of $5,000 a year tends to be a good fit for us. Large target market tends to be a good fit for us.
Okay.
And that usually means a handful of target industries like marketing services and marketing software, e-commerce services and e-commerce software, HR services and HR software. Those are sort of three key markets for us where we've got some really good traction and the story really works well. Our customers are global. We do have a bit of a concentration here in North Carolina, just where a lot of our services customers are located, that we were able to spin up just because of proximity and my personal network here. But we work with Wonderlic, Ignite Social Media, Locomote, Rev Cascade, Community Co. Lots and lots of sort of small, mid-size software companies. That tends to be the general makeup of our customer base.
And so what is your software doing for them? They're able to implement it into their current sales process and find more prospects for their pipeline?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really succinct way of putting it. It's basically RevBoss is really two things: segments and flows. Segments are groups of companies and prospects that meet some criteria that you define. So you, as the customer, would say, "Well, I want to talk to people and companies that meet these criteria," input that into the RevBoss search engine, and we're going to bring back the types of people that you want to advance into your sales process, including contact information. The other half of the product is called flows, and that's the sequence of sales actions that you want to run those prospects through. So day one, you might send an email. Day two, you make a phone call. Day three, you connect on LinkedIn. Day four, another email, and so on and so forth. And so when you put segments and flows together, you kind of have the data and the process running in this virtuous cycle that can help sales teams automate more of their day-to-day task and help manage the sort of daily to-do list that the rep needs to churn through every day, and turn more of those prospects into actual sales conversations.
Now, is your software complementing the existing sales team or replacing members on that team?
That's very funny you say that. I had a call with a prospective customer, and actually she signed an agreement. She is a customer. This was a couple weeks ago, and I gave her a demo of the product, and she just kind of got quiet for a minute and said, "If I buy this, then what am I going to do?" Which I thought was pretty funny. I mean, she was spending her time churning through a lot of just kind of the mundane tasks that sales reps have just kind of done for ages. Trolling through LinkedIn, finding the right email address, finding the right phone number, and software can do all of that in a much more efficient and effective way. So I mean, I don't think we're in the business of replacing people. I think we're in the business of making people more effective.
Right.
If a rep is spending 30% of her time doing just drudge work, and RevBoss can do that work for her, then she should be significantly more effective because she can fill that 30% time with things that actually move the needle.
Right.
Or her manager can hire 30% fewer reps going forward.
I mean, me and you have talked before, when I get my company SoundGuard back up off the ground, I'm going to have 50 or 60 sales reps around the country calling on hotels and apartment complexes. And I know that they're spending the majority of their time, trying to find the contact person and their phone number and their email address, where if software like this can help provide that information, they can spend 80-90% of the time on the phone instead of 20% on the phone and 80% trying to find the contact info. So
yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, and that's the sales pitch. And one thing that we do that's interesting, it's all software, and I'm sort of using air quotes, but behind the software, there's actually a pretty significant human worker component. We partner with a company called Cloud Factory, with whom we share an investor, interestingly. And Cloud Factory has a huge worker team in Paul. And behind the scenes at RevBoss, we have a dedicated team there that is churning through tons and tons of tasks every day. And those tasks are related to finding phone numbers, finding job titles, augmenting information. So even in the case where it's work that a human still has to do, we can do it in a incredibly efficient way, simply just due to the labor cost arbitrage that we're able to get by working with a developing country.
Talk to us. You mentioned investors. You guys raised 1.1 million. At what point? Now you started the company, like you said, doing consulting work. That was what, like 4 years ago?
Yeah, geez, that feels like decades ago. But I guess that was like 20. I think 2013 was me, just one man show as a
Okay.
consultant. 2014 was kind of transitioning from one man show to lead gen team. 2015 we kind of got serious about building software. We closed our seed financing about a year ago, and so now 2016 has kind of been sort of getting the product off the ground and taking it to market and starting to build a recurring revenue business.
This is Jonah Lupton, founder of the Lupton Group and host of the Startup Sense podcast. Are you struggling to find the right tech team to build your company's website or mobile app? Maybe you've developed a product but need help with your go-to-market strategy, including branding and marketing. Well, stop worrying, because my team at the Lupton Group can assist you with all of those needs. We specialize in helping entrepreneurs and startups of all sizes launch and grow their businesses. For a free consultation, you can email me at jonahlupton@gmail.com or visit our website at luptongroup.co. What decisions did you, or I guess, how did you come to the decision to move away from the kind of the lead gen service to software?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's something that I look back on and kind of think about every now and then. We didn't build a huge business doing lead gen, but built a decent business and was paying myself pretty well and not having to work that hard, and life was pretty easy, right? Like I kind of just made a lifestyle business that was doing okay, but it just wasn't really scratching the itch. For me personally, in terms of what I want to do and what I know I'm capable of doing. And plus there's just a massive market opportunity to do what we were doing in terms of lead gen, but just doing it in a more automated, software-driven way. And, the market for sales enablement tools and technology is massive and just getting bigger and becoming more important every week. And so it was really a matter of, I could keep slow rolling this lifestyle business, or I could take another big whack at it and try to build something big and interesting. And I'm really glad that I did it. It's definitely wasn't an easy choice to make, and definitely it would have been the easy thing for me to just kind of keep rolling with the consulting business. But life's too short, and I'm too young.
When did you raise the 1.1 million? Was that prior to moving into the software business?
No, we had already kind of committed to head down that path before we raised the capital. And that was the good thing about starting as a services company, was that we had already proven that, we de-risked the company in a lot of ways. Like, one, we were a business with revenue and profits and customers and, an operation. And we were able to fund some software development to at least get like an alpha product up and running. And so we had some, we were already showing traction and showing some proof that we were moving in that direction. And the capital that we raised was really to just accelerate that. And almost all of that has been spent on software engineering and getting the product out the door.
Now, tell us about the software engineering process. Did you hire people for that, or did you outsource it?
Yeah, so we have a in-house engineering team, and interestingly, the entire engineering team is distributed. So we have a team here in Durham that's our sales and customer success and marketing, and our product team is remote. And that isn't what we started out doing. We were going to try to hire locally, but I mean, you hire software engineers; it's brutal. It's really hard. And, we're in a small, comparatively small market here in North Carolina, and we just weren't able to find the right candidates. And so we eventually just decided, let's just try remote. And we were able to, see quite a few good candidates and kind of get our pick of the litter. And, I definitely did not expect that we would have a distributed engineering team when we got started. And it's definitely not easy to do, but I'm really happy with how it's been working out so far.
I mean, North Carolina is becoming more competitive for talent, right? I mean, there are more successful, fast-growing startups that have raised capital in North Carolina than ever before. Obviously, we know that Silicon Valley and Boston and New York, I don't know about New York necessarily, but Silicon Valley and Boston are extremely competitive for talent.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are you saying that there's still it's hard to find the right people in North Carolina at the right price?
I mean, there are people here. There is plenty of talent here. For us, we just had a hard time of it for whatever reason. And, when we decided to go to the remote path, we made 3 hires really, really quickly.
Right,
and
right.
all 3 still work with RevBoss, and all 3 are still doing a really, really good job.
Awesome.
And that was after, spending, quite a bit of time trying to get the team ramped up with a local search. And it's not that the talent isn't here. It's just that it's tied up in companies, and there's just not, there's not a lot of talent sitting on the sidelines.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So you've either got to find somebody
none.
in transition or kind of, have a network already ready to go. And, I think eventually we probably will have more software engineering here, but, the team has been distributed from the beginning, and, the next engineering hires that we make, I suspect, will probably look at remote hires just because we've gotten pretty good at it.
Yeah, I would say that the unemployment rate for highly technical people, including software engineers, is as close to zero as you can get. If they're talented, they're working somewhere. If they're not working somewhere, it's because they don't want to be working or they're not any good. So now, how does your team stay in touch? How do you guys stay efficient with your time on a daily basis? I assume you guys use Slack.
Yeah, so that has been a learning process for sure. So we use Slack, we use Google Hangouts. Product team is a daily stand-up in Google Hangout every day. Every quarter, we fly in the remote team into Durham, North Carolina for a week's worth of working together and hanging out and kind of goofing off. And in reality, that has been the best thing that we've done to build connections between the Durham and the remote teams, and to kind of make sure that company culture gets communicated to the people that don't come into the office every day. Those are kind of I wouldn't say they're like the obvious ones, but those are the kind of the easy wins. There have been some more subtle things that we've done more recently that I think have been useful. We have a kind of a, we do support with our customers, right? And every now and then, that's customer support will require some input from a software engineer. And we've made a sort of a rotating schedule so that every engineer is in charge of the support channel on Slack.
Oh,
and
cool.
That way, for 1 week it might be, Mike P, who runs support, and then the next week it might be Colton, and then the next week there might be Eric. There's actually 2 Erics and 2 Mikes at RevBoss. And that was like a kind of a subtle thing, but now the team in Durham is interacting with a different engineer every week. That engineer is hearing issues directly from our customers every week. And so that's been a really good win for us. Another thing that I try to do, I spend quite a bit of my time selling and doing demos and talking to customers. I try to make sure that the engineering team is on at least one sales demo every week as well, so that they can see how the features that they are building are shaping sales conversations and solving customer problems. And that way they're, it's not some disconnected thing for them, but it's very real in terms of what they're working on and how it impacts, the revenue growth of the company.
Cool. That's smart. I think you said earlier, you mentioned $5,000. Is that kind of the minimum where most of your clients are paying at least $5,000 a year to work with you guys or to use the software?
Oh, yeah. So the software, when I mentioned $5,000, that is for the customer. So for our customer, their average price point needs to be about $5,000 a year.
Okay.
In order for the economics of a prospecting-based sales process to make a lot of sense. For our price point, I think for SaaS customers, I think our lowest offering is $3,000 a year. Although I would say on average, our SaaS customers are probably closer to $5,000 or $6,000 a year. Services customers are quite a bit more than that, just because it's services, and there's a lot more tied onto it. But even the way we price our services is basically a SaaS subscription that you buy from us, and then we just put an account manager on top of it to do the work, and that's typically a flat fee. So, services contracts start at, probably like $20,000 a year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the pricing right now, and so the least expensive offering is $250 a month. I think okay, so that's if you buy pay for it up front, and then $300 a month if it's if you want to build monthly, and then with that, when you guys break it down into unit pricing, it's 500 prospects per month, so it's only 50 cents a prospect, which sounds pretty cheap. I mean, if you're saving someone a lot of time and effort, 50 cents a prospect, especially in any sort of a purchase situation, in the hundreds or thousands, that sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
We think it's a good deal too.
Yeah. And then what does SDR stand for?
Oh yeah, so that's a new thing that we've just started doing. It stands for Sales Development Rep.
Oh, okay.
And we found that there's the SaaS offering that we have where it's self-serve. You log in and you use the tool, and off you go. And then we have the full service offering, which is, we'll do it for you. Just talk to us every couple of weeks, and we'll update you on how things are going, and otherwise just leave the problem to us. We found there's an area in the middle, and that's where we created this SaaS plus SDR product. And it really stemmed from a handful of customers. A really good example is a customer of ours called Shoebox. They're taking a new product to market, and they have some pretty special qualification that needs to get done on every prospect that goes out the door. And I mentioned earlier the worker team we have in Nepal, and so what we can do, and we kind of pilot it with these guys, is we'll take the SaaS subscription, and we won't do the sort of full service, but we can equip your account with what's effectively like a researcher, someone from our Nepal team that can kind of jump in and help crank through a lot of the busy work to qualify things. For this customer, Shoebox, they would want to look at a retailer website and determine if they actually sell a physical good, right? So they would go to Nike.com and see that they sell shoes. So that would be a check. Then they would go to iTunes.com and see that they sell downloads. Well, that's not a physical good, so that one's not qualified. This customer of ours found that they had, that RevBoss solved a lot of the problem in terms of sourcing prospects and contact information, but they still had this huge qualification issue. And they were still spending up a lot of time looking at each company, trying to make sure that it met their qualification criteria. And so we had the idea of creating this offering where we would put an SDR into the process for them to do this research. And we just launched that a few weeks ago, and we've test driven it with 2 customers and looking to bring on more. And it looks like it's going to be a really good fit for us. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where that definitely helps a company. Allows them to keep their sales team a little bit smaller. Each person's more productive, and this way they're outsourcing some of those, like you said, kind of the mundane tasks to your company, rather than if it's a small company that's doing a couple $1 million in revenue, and I don't know, maybe they normally would have 6 sales people on the sales team. Maybe they can get away now with only having 4, and then using RevBoss to kind of plug the other hole.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what are the metrics that you use that you like to look at on a daily or weekly basis to kind of see the health of the company.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's well, I guess there's a handful. At the sort of top level, cash, obviously. We are a venture-backed company, and with that kind of, along with that comes an expectation of growth and an expectation of burning cash. To grow faster. And so, I'm constantly watching bank balance and making sure that we're, sort of tracking where we expect to be. And the other side of that equation is growth, making sure that our month-over-month growth rate kind of lines up with where we needed to be. And those were really the 2 things that, the 2 numbers that I kind of obsess over the most.
Do you have a goal? Do you have a goal for month-over-month growth?
Yeah, I would like to be north of 20%.
Okay. And
I mean, we launched the SaaS product in like September. So all of our revenue prior to September of this year was services revenue, and still generating quite a bit of services revenue every month. But now, we lead every sales conversation with our SaaS offering, and so it's pretty easy to have gaudy month-over-month growth numbers early on when you're going from, zero.
Right.
But overall, I've been pretty happy with kind of the quick start that we've had. And, hopefully 6 months, 12 months from now, we're still growing north of 20% month over month. But that's kind of the expectation of that's kind of a venture growth story. If you're not growing, and 20% is a stretch. I mean, 10% is acceptable. But if you're not growing 10 to 20% a month in a venture-based strategy, then, something's not right.
Yeah, I mean, you can get away with 10 as long as it's really high quality and you're not having, you don't have much churn.
Yeah.
What? I mean, I assume you guys are not, you're not cash flow positive yet. I mean, any early stage VC-backed companies can be super focused on growth.
No, we're not. And I'll tell you, after running a cash flow positive consulting sort of lead gen company that was, generating cash every month, that was a little bit of a weird transition for me, to be honest, to kind of switch modes from like, okay, I got to make sure that we turn a profit every month to like now let's just make sure this thing is
top line,
growing.
not bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. And it could be, it is counterintuitive, obviously, but I definitely had to kind of break some habits that I developed over a couple of years of running this sort of lifestyle cash oriented business.
I mean, I was looking at an S1 IPO filing yesterday. I saw someone tweet about it, and I forget the name of the company, but I remember seeing that in 2000, I think it was 2013, the company revenues were like 20 million. And this year they're projected to do 150 million in revenue. So that is incredible growth. And then you go to the next line and you look at their losses, they're projected to do, their losses have basically grown as much too. They were losing 30 to 40 million a year back in 2012. They're going to lose 300 million this year. Holy crap. And this company's going public with the, $2 billion valuation. Like, it's just, I feel like everyone is just so starved for growth. They put so much emphasis on it. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, look at Amazon. Yeah. Amazon's a $300 billion company right now. I think it took them 10 years to be profitable. So,
yeah, well, it's definitely, SaaS in particular is a deferred gratification business. And, you pay the big chunk of change up front to acquire the customer, and then you hope that you can keep that customer, long enough to pay back that cost and then some. And that's why you have these severe J curves like you've just described. It's like, hey, I can grow faster, but as I grow faster, I'm going to burn more. And, the math tells me that, year 2, 3, 4, and 5, I sort of make up the cost and the profits start piling in. But yeah, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. That's for sure. And we've only raised $1.1 million. And the goal for us in 2017 is to make sure that we're in a position to raise quite a bit more toward the end of the year, next year, which I guess is almost this year. But and the amount of cash that we're burning is actually pretty minimal because we have the services revenue kind of tied into the company. But the goal is to kind of get the model proven, like show that we have a repeatable sales process, show that our customers are going to stick around long enough, and then raise more money so we can burn it and grow even faster, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, but that's normal, right? I mean, you use this round, the seed round or small VC round, whatever you want to call this, to prove out the model, prove that it's scalable, prove that there's a product market fit, and then you raise that next round to really scale, to just push down on the gas pedal as hard as you can. I mean, you mentioned earlier, rattled off some customer names. I think you told me that they're really all over the world. How are you finding these clients, or how are they finding you?
Initially, 100% organic, referral, network based, and that's still the primary engine to date. We rank on a handful of keywords, and I wish I could say that we were like, search engine optimization geniuses. But I think we've just kind of gotten lucky, and we've created some good content and consistent content on our site, and that generates a lot of inbound traffic every month. Obviously, as a sales prospecting software company, we should be good at sales prospecting. And
True.
To be very honest, we've been pretty inconsistent until recently. And starting a few months back, we really started to focus on RevBoss. We just call it RevBossing for RevBoss. And it's really compelling when we run our process, and then I can get a prospect on the phone and show them a demo, and then show them, here's you. Here's how our software found you. Here is the email that the software sent to you.
Right.
Now we are having this sales conversation. Isn't that great? Wouldn't you like for this software to do for you what it has done for me? It's, knock on wood, but it looks like that's going to work really, really well for us.
What do you think? Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to wrap up the thought. We've just had a couple really strong sales months since we've really ramped up on the sales prospecting process. As we should. It's kind of part of the venture pitch for RevBoss too, is that we can eat our own dog food in terms of a growth strategy.
What do you think some of your conversion rates are? Meaning, say, I don't know, 100, an email goes out to 100 potential prospects, for your actual services, and how many people are you able to get on the phone, and then how many of those people are you able to turn into a client?
So this comes up in almost every sales conversation that we have, and I can give you just some blanket numbers, just as general expectations that you should expect. So if you emailed 100 people, I would expect 10 to 25 people to actually reply. Of those 10 to 25 replies, I would expect maybe 1 to 5 to actually be to turn into sort of qualified first conversations. And then of those, 1 to 5 prospects, at that point, your sales process,
right? Okay.
Your sales funnel economics should apply. So if you're emailing 100, it's not ridiculous to say you'll get a customer out of that 100. If you email 1,000, the numbers are going to be a lot cleaner. If you email 10,000, the numbers are going to be a lot more in your favor. Right. But that gets down to kind of market size and market fit. And the more you layer in things like cold calls, LinkedIn connects, those sorts of things, that's going to lift your throughput as well. And that's going to generate more conversations.
So, just doing some, rough numbers in my head, using that first package that you guys have for $300 a month, or say it's, $250 a month if you're paying up front, 50 cents a prospect. So if I'm emailing 100 prospects, that's really only costing me $50. Is that accurate? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So even if I just get one customer out of that, and that one customer is paying me $500 a month, this thing, your product pays for itself 10 times over.
Yeah, and that's the math that we try to walk our customers down every time we're on the phone with them, is look at the monthly cost of RevBoss, break that into some sort of cost per lead number, and assume it's $10, $50, $100, whatever it might be, and then kind of factor that into your sales process. Like if you convert 1 out of 10 leads into a customer, and it costs $50 to get a lead from RevBoss, well, your cost of customer acquisition via RevBoss is going to be $500. How long is it going to take for you to get that $500 paid back? Right. 1 month, 2 months, 12 months? Like, that's the math that you need to be thinking. And I'll tell you, in for me, having spent a career doing this kind of stuff, it's awesome to be able to sell in that type of environment where it's math, right? It's like,
yeah, because you can't argue with math.
Yeah, like, I can justify this purchase to you with math, and why don't you try it for 90 days? And after 90 days, the math is either going to tell you that I was right or I was wrong. And if the math is great, then awesome for the both of us. You're going to get a lot of value. We're going to get a good customer. And if the math, doesn't prove out that this is going to be a good process, well, we'll live with that. And that sucks, because we want you to be a customer, but, you need to do what's best for you. And that is a really strong position. It's a really strong selling position versus, previous companies I've worked with where it's much fuzzier, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
As opposed to kind of black and white.
Have you run into this scenario before? And then if you have, kind of tell us how you get through it. You talk to a potential client, they have a great product or service. They start using RevBoss. They're generating leads, but they suck at closing. They're just not good at sales, and they have a horrible closing ratio on those leads. What do you guys do? Are you able to step in and help them? I mean, I know that's not really part of your service. Will it be someday where you guys actually like take over the sales process for a company?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because it does come up from time to time where we'll have a customer and we know that things look good from our end, and then we'll get on the phone with them and find out that the deals aren't getting done, and you can kind of interpolate. It's like, well, you're getting the right people, you're getting the conversation, so either your product is bad, your sales process is bad, your sales team is bad, like something is breaking down on your side of the fence, because on our side of the fence, things look really great. And that's really tough because, we aren't really in a position where we can kind of jump in and take the wheel. But we are getting a lot better at advising our customers and creating resources to kind of help coach them through at least the part of the process that we can influence, kind of the RevBoss software side of it. But it does come up, and it's painful. It just breaks our heart.
Right. I mean, because you don't want, if they can't close deals, they can't afford the service, and you don't want to lose them as a client. You want them to be successful. The more successful they are, the more money they'll spend with RevBoss.
Yeah, and I mean that's really, for us, it's kind of a qualification criteria, right? Is before we get too far into the sales process with a customer, now we like to make sure that they know what they're doing and they have a sales process in place. They ideally have a sales rep at least that can sort of create value on top of the value that we're creating for them. But yeah, internally, it's long been the joke. I mean, I don't know that I'd call it a joke, but the team, some of the sales guys on the team and I would just kind of be like, man, how are these guys not killing it? Like they're getting so much good stuff from us. How are they not just killing it? But it is what it is, and
just like
hard.
Yeah, I mean, and just like hiring good software engineers is hard, sometimes hiring good sales reps is hard too.
Yeah. I mean, and I know I kind of joke about it, but I mean, I totally get it. It's hard, and particularly like a prospecting-based sale is hard, where you've never heard of me, and I have to get you all the way from never heard of me to trusting me with your money,
right?
And trusting this product that I've sold, and that's just hard to do.
But at least what your service is doing is you're warming up that prospect. And I'll take this back to my company, SoundGuard. If my sales reps are calling a hotel manager cold and trying to introduce our services, it's a lot harder than if we're able to start that conversation off with an email, warm them up, get them to reply to it, and then they kind of have, just an easier conversation to walk into.
Precisely. Yep.
Kind of getting away from the business right now, talk about kind of your journey as a CEO. What have you learned over the last couple of years that's made you a better entrepreneur and CEO?
Oh, geez. I think I've learned to try to never get too high and never get too low. Particularly in my role, we don't always hear from the customers that are like super happy and just chugging right along and getting a ton of value. I hear about problems. And so when there's a customer problem, that's usually when I get looped in, right? And that's kind of the way it is with any business. You have the customers that are just humming right along, and you're not going to hear from them. You're just going to hear from the ones where things aren't going well.
Right.
And so it's very easy for me sometimes to get, sort of rattled a little bit when things aren't going well with a customer, and then it's like, well, things aren't going well for this customer, then things aren't going well for any of our customers. And if things aren't going well for any of our customers, then they're all going to churn. And if they're all going to churn, I need to just polish up my resume now and go get a job somewhere. And, I catch myself doing that every now and then. I have to kind of tell my reptilian hindbrain to just shut up and sort of deal with the problem and keep moving forward. And I still really struggle with that. And I'll be very honest, that's kind of been a tough thing for me. And it's always been a tough thing for me, is to kind of have the little mini meltdowns But I've learned that you just can't do that, and
Right.
you just got to have the discipline to kind of manage that and
I'm the
recognize
same
that it's
way.
going to happen.
I get really bad anxiety, so when something goes wrong with a client, right, you start to think that it's going to go wrong with every client, and you start to like think about worst case scenarios, and it sucks. It eats you up from the inside.
Yeah, and so I've had to learn to do a much better job of dealing with that, and I still don't do a great job of dealing with it, but I'm at least more aware of it. And yeah, so that's, you ask something that I've learned, and that's been a big one.
What's the best piece of advice that one of your investors has given you?
Oh, so Henry Kasner is the lead investor in RevBoss. His fund is called Sovereign's Capital. Henry's the general partner, and he's on the board, and he is one of the most positive, affirming, supportive people, not just investors, but just of anyone that I've ever worked with.
Wow.
And the best advice that he's given me is really just to trust myself and to trust my instincts, and that he and his team are going to back me, and that they are going to sort of, they invested in RevBoss in part because they believe in me, and they believe in me as an operator. And as since we're having sort of soul-bearing talk here, as a guy that kind of has these mini meltdowns, and sometimes I find that I don't trust myself, and that I get, some issue will come up, and I will significantly overcomplicate it, versus just sort of trusting my gut and going. And that's some really good advice that he gives me, and he continues to coach me on. And it's an area that, I've become a lot more self-aware of, and I try to get better, every week, every month, just making quicker decisions and then trusting my decisions when I make them.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard when, you're so fully invested in this business. You want it to be as big and successful as possible that, when you hit a speed bump, it is hard not to kind of melt down for a second. It's hard to take a step back and look at it from, I don't know, a non-emotional standpoint.
Yeah.
Trying to think what other questions I want to throw at you. Let's see here. Anything that I skipped over that you wanted to mention about the business or the journey? The culture. I mean, really anything.
No, I think we've hit a lot of the high points. It's been a really good conversation, Joe, and I've appreciated it very much.
Absolutely. Who are you guys still doing any hiring right now?
Not at the moment, but my hunch is probably February, March. We're going to look to hire a couple more BDRs.
Okay.
And probably a front-end software engineer and a VP of engineering.
And you think the BDRs will be based in Durham, most likely?
Yeah, BDRs will be based in Durham for sure, and they will report directly to me, which is a positive or a negative. I don't know. I guess it's positive for the right kind of person to report to the sales guy CEO. And the software engineering roles will be remote. Though obviously we'll look in Durham, Raleigh, Durham, but we'll do a global search.
For those BDRs, what types of, because a lot of the people that may be listening to this interview, may have an interest in a position like that. And I'm in talks with a couple North Carolina, like big blogs. I want to mention their names right now, but hopefully they'll get me a lot more visibility and a larger audience in North Carolina pretty soon. But
good for you.
What kind of a background would you look for from a BDR?
SaaS sales experience in sort of a high volume, high transaction environment, doing, several deals a month, north of, $300, $400 a month, average MRR. I like sales reps that have overcome adversity in their life or professionally. That's one of the interview questions that we kind of screen for. We like to, with every candidate that we talk to, we like to figure out when did they get their teeth kicked in, and then what did they do about it?
Right.
Because it takes that kind of grit, particularly in an early stage company where, you're not selling Salesforce.com. Salesforce.com, everybody's heard of it. The software is massive and functional and can do 1,000 things. not a lot of people have heard of RevBoss. Nobody cares about us. We're kind of having to brute force this thing into existence and into the market, and that takes a certain type of grit and certain type of fight in a rep. And screening for that is hard to do, but I know they're out there. We got a couple on the team right now, and we're looking to bring on a couple more, probably in the February timeframe.
Sweet. I'll ask this question. You don't have to necessarily answer it, but in 3 years, do you think RevBoss will still be an independent company, or do you guys think you'll be acquired before that?
I hope we'll still be an independent company. That's what we're planning on. We're planning, this is a 10-year journey. And, I spent a couple sort of years leading up to it, but we're really 1 year into a 10-year journey. If you sort of take the seed financing that we raised as sort of the sort of spark that actually launched the product company. So even 3 years from now, I still think it's going to be really early for us and really early for the market. So my hope, my expectation, my intention is that we are growing quickly and independent 3 years from now, but never say never.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good answer. I mean, I don't think you can really plan to be acquired. If you're planning to be acquired, it'll probably never happen. I mean, that's just the way things work.
Yeah.
If you could be mentored by anybody, who would it be? Do you have a favorite entrepreneur or CEO?
Oh, if I could be mentored. So I read The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz every 3 months. I'd love to spend some time with him.
Okay.
His book is kind of like the realest playbook there is for founder CEO types. Outside of him, there's really not anyone.
Is this kind of a pitch? Is this a pitch to get Andreessen Horowitz to invest in your A round?
Yeah, maybe if Ben listens to the podcast, maybe this can be my intro.
I'll tweet it to him and I'll tell him exactly where to jump into it. So we'll talk like minute 38 or whatever we're at right now. Perfect.
That's funny.
And then what about, kind of last question I'd like to ask everyone is, do you have a favorite book, which you actually just rattled off one, so that takes care of that. A favorite TV show or a favorite blog?
Oh, my favorite TV show. My favorite TV show lately has been watching old school Mario speed runs on YouTube with my kids.
Oh.
It's these like super dorks that have perfected Super Mario, like 1, 2, 3, Super Mario World. They can play the video games and like complete them in like 14 minutes, and they time themselves. My kids had never watched them before. They didn't even know who Mario was, and I thought just to show it to them. And now they just love it. And you can find them on YouTube, and they're totally engrossing. It's like oddly. I mean, I grew up playing those games, and some of them I never beat. So watching these people play them so flawlessly is really entertaining.
I still remember the day that my dad bought me a Nintendo, and I played Mario Brothers for the first time. Like, I can still remember sitting on my little, sitting on my bedroom floor, looking at a little 13-inch TV, playing Mario Brothers, and thinking it was the greatest thing in the world. The graphics were amazing. This is going to change my life. And then I can't even imagine what video games look like nowadays. It's just insane.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Same. Well, I'll tell you, take some time today, search for Super Mario Speed Run on YouTube, and you'll thank me later.
That's so funny. I probably will, because I'm getting sick. So I know I'm going to spend the next 2 days in bed watching YouTube and Netflix anyway. So now I got some content. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming on today. Like I said, last interview of 2016, ending on a high note for sure. You guys are off to an incredible start with RevBoss. I love what you guys are doing. Software is taking over the world. And that's a good thing. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, you're helping companies be more efficient, productive, profitable. I mean, those are all good things. So any parting words for the audience?
No, other than happy 2017. Make it a good year.
And everybody wants to find you. The website is revboss.com. I'll obviously put that in the show notes. Are you on Twitter, or are you LinkedIn, email address, any of that stuff you want to give out?
Yeah, Eric at revboss.com. I'm at Eric Boggs on Twitter. I actually think I'm LinkedIn /Eric Boggs as well.
Okay, cool.
If you Google my name, you'll find me. Although there's a guy named Eric Boggs that plays linebacker. for Appalachian State football team. He's the tougher looking RevBoss. I'm the goofy software. He's the tougher looking Eric Boggs. I'm the goofy software Eric Boggs. You should be able to figure out the difference pretty quickly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Happy holidays and happy New Year. Have a great 2017.
Yeah, thanks, Jonah. You too.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Cheers. Bye.